In the billionaire's mansion, every corner seemed alive with wealth. There were glittering chandeliers that rained golden light on marble floors, polished so perfectly that every reflection seemed like a second world beneath one's feet. The walls were dressed with rare paintings, and every object in sight screamed of privilege and power. Yet, despite the beauty and splendor, one heart in that vast house felt like it lived in a prison built not of bars but of silence. The billionaire's daughter moved quietly through the halls, her small frame almost blending into the grandeur of the place. Her hair flowed gently down her back, her dress perfectly tailored, her eyes expressive but carrying an unspoken sadness that few could read. She was deaf, born into a family where everything could be bought, except the patience to learn her language. People admired her beauty, respected her name, but none of them reached her soul. Every day was a cycle of invisible isolation. When her father hosted dinners with politicians, business partners, or celebrities, she would be present, dressed in the finest gown, sitting quietly at the edge of the table. Guests often smiled politely when their eyes landed on her, and some even whispered behind their glasses of champagne. She would try to read lips, catch fragments of their world, but when her condition was discovered, the conversation always grew awkward, and they would drift away, leaving her stranded in silence. Her father, though he loved her in his way, had built a wall of distance. His mind was always on business ventures, deals, and the empire he was constructing. He believed that buying her tutors, therapists, and the most exclusive schools was enough. But none of them stayed long. The girl rarely found anyone who truly saw her. At night, when the laughter and chatter faded from the grand halls, she would retreat to her room at the highest corner of the mansion. She often sat by the wide window that overlooked the gardens and city skyline beyond. There, with a small sketchbook in hand, she drew pictures of the life she wished she had. Sometimes she drew people signing with her. Sometimes a mother bending down to understand her, sometimes simply herself, standing free without the weight of a family name. The silence in her world wasn't just because she couldn't hear, it was because nobody tried to meet her where she was. The staff respected her but avoided deep contact, afraid of making mistakes or embarrassing themselves. Guests acknowledged her but never lingered. Her father gave her everything, yet she often felt she had nothing. In this house full of voices, laughter, and music, she was the one person trapped in a lonely silence. One late afternoon, as preparations were underway for another grand party in the mansion, she wandered away from the glittering rooms and walked through the quieter service corridors. Here, the noise of the main halls was replaced by the softer sounds of workers moving trays, setting up decorations, and preparing for guests. It was here, in the less glamorous part of the house, that she noticed someone she had never paid much attention to before. A janitor, perhaps in his late 50s, stood sweeping the floor. His uniform was simple, his hands rough and worn, but his eyes had a gentleness that contrasted with the constant rush of the household staff. He noticed her too. For a brief second she expected what always happened, that he would nod politely, bow his head, and return to his task, leaving her to her solitude. But he didn't. He put his broom aside, straightened slowly, and raised his hands. At first she froze, uncertain of what he was doing. Then her heart skipped. His hands moved carefully, forming shapes she had longed to see outside of her own mirror. He was signing. The first word he gave her was a hello. The next, "How are you?" Her eyes widened as her breath caught in her throat. She had been ignored by the world for so long that this moment felt unreal. Her lips parted, and she lifted her own hands, hesitantly replying with the same question. For a moment it felt like time stopped, as though the mansion itself had gone quiet just to honor this fragile connection blooming in a forgotten corridor. The janitor smiled warmly, and his eyes shone with kindness. He told her through sign that his wife had been deaf. He had learned her language because he wanted to love her in a way that mattered. His wife had passed away years ago, but he had never forgotten what she had taught him. He explained all this slowly, gently, making sure she could follow. Tears filled her eyes. In all the years she had lived in this mansion, surrounded by riches, not one person besides her teachers had spoken to her in her language. And here was a janitor, someone the world might overlook, giving her the gift of being seen, of being heard without sound. She asked him question after question, her hands trembling with excitement as she sighed. He listened with patience, his rough hands moving with surprising grace. He told her about his wife's love of music, not hearing it, but feeling it through vibrations. He told her about their walks in the park, their secret jokes, the way she used to laugh silently but with her whole face. The girl listened, tears streaming, but this time they weren't only tears of sorrow, they were tears of relief, of recognition. For the first time she wasn't just the billionaire's deaf daughter, she was a person, a girl who had found someone willing to speak her language. That night, as the mansion sparkled with lights and guests poured in, she felt something inside her she hadn't felt in years, hope. When the party began, she was again placed at the edge of the ballroom. The music played, people laughed, glasses clinked, and her father's booming voice carried through the crowd. She sat quietly, a silent ornament at the table, her sketchbook on her lap. But tonight was different. Across the room she spotted the janitor moving through the crowd with a tray in hand, unnoticed by everyone else. Their eyes met, and for the first time she didn't feel invisible. He paused, just for a second, and when nobody was looking, he signed a small joke to her. Something light-hearted, playful. She giggled, covering her mouth quickly, but her eyes sparkled with life. The janitor gave her a quick smile and continued on his way, blending into the background once more. Her father, who had never paid much attention to these small details, happened to notice her smile. He paused mid-conversation, startled, because it had been so long since he had seen his daughter laugh with genuine joy. He looked around trying to see what had caused it, but all he saw was the janitor disappearing into the crowd. Something stirred in him that night, a realization he had been too busy to face. His daughter was not broken, not silent. She simply needed someone who cared enough to reach her. For the first time in years he saw not just her beauty or her sadness, but her humanity. He realized that all the riches he had given her had meant nothing without love and communication. And it was the janitor, not him, who had opened that door. The girl, unaware of the storm building in her father's thoughts, felt something she had never felt before. She felt alive, she felt connected. And as the night stretched on, the silence around her didn't seem as heavy anymore, because she had discovered someone willing to meet her where she was. The billionaire's mansion remained filled with music and laughter, but deep inside its walls, something more powerful had been born, a bond between a girl the world ignored, and a man the world overlooked, bound together by hands that spoke in silence.